What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Fish Aquatics. Today I wanted to talk about a very important topic in the aquarium community, and that is quarantine. And the reason I want to talk about quarantine is because it's very, very important for fish hobbyists to do this. Reason being, if you go to the pet store and get a fish that you like, or now I'm going to use guppies as an example because I like to keep guppies. Say I went out to the store and I had all these guppies in here and they're thriving and doing well, and I decide I want to get one more guppy because it's another pattern of this tank is all yellows, another pattern of yellow that I like, and I get that guppy, I bring it home, put it in this tank. Next day I come back, I notice all the fish are being very lethargic. They're sitting at the bottom, and then they're being very sporadic where they are flashing against the substrate or flashing against the glass. And what happened in that 24-hour period is I brought home an infected fish, put that fish in my tank, and he has now infected the rest of the tank and transferred that parasite to everybody. So quarantine is very, very important, and I want to talk about it because not a lot of people don't know about it, and you should definitely do this if you are getting into the aquarium hobby. Highly recommended. So let me turn around here and I'll show you some of the stuff I've got and what I do. Alright, so I'm standing over here by my quarantine tanks. I have three 5.5 gallon quarantines. One of them is currently being used for my wife's betta fish, and I have two quarantines currently set up, and I have a third one down there on the bottom not being used yet because I don't need it yet. For me personally, I don't usually have cycled quarantine tanks because if I have a fish in quarantine, I'm going to be maintaining it daily and doing big water changes and things like that, trying to make that fish as comfortable and as healthy as possible. And a lot of times, a lot of the medicine that you put in there will actually kill any beneficial bacteria in here because it's trying to kill everything except for the fish. So I want to talk about, this is a 5.5 gallon tank. I like these for quarantine because it doesn't cost as much when using medications. And a lot of people know, some of you may not, these medications are not cheap. A lot of the ones I use are erythromycin, General Cure, and Icex. And each one of these medications, as is sitting here, is about $15 a piece. And these two boxes treat 10 times, and this treats quite a bit. This treats I'm not sure, but I've treated hundreds of gallons off of one bottle. So what I'll do is if I go buy a fish, I will bring him home, put him in quarantine, and watch him. I don't treat with any medications right off the bat. I just watch him for a couple days and see what he's doing. Now, one thing I will do is I will treat the tank with aquarium salt. Aquarium salt I treat at 1 tablespoon per 5 gallons, so each one of these tanks will get 1 tablespoon of salt, and when the fish gets added to the tank, and that will kill any minor bacteria and parasites. A long exposure to aquarium salt could kill off major parasites and major infections, but it's going to take a long amount of time. If it's going to be something that could be detrimental to the life of the fish, I'm going to use stronger medications like the erythromycin, the General Cure, or the Icex. If I notice that the fish is getting a fungal infection, so the white fuzziness that you see all over the fish, if they get it on their mouth or on their body, or if they start developing fin or tail rot, I'm going to go ahead and use some erythromycin. This will take care of that in a couple days. Now, one thing to note is you have to follow the directions on these to a T in order for them to work properly. And one of the reasons I like to use a 5 gallon tank is if you look at the treatments on these, a lot of the packets that are in this are specifically for 10 gallon tanks. So instead of getting 10 treatments out of a 10 count box, you get 20 treatments because half of a pack treats the tank once. So that's why I like to treat in small tanks and not big tanks, because if I had my 125 gallon tank in the living room and I wanted to treat that, I would have to use one of these boxes every time I have to treat, and that's $15 every time. And I don't want to do that. So that's what I use for fungal or bacterial infections. If I see the fish has long white stringy poop or has the flashing, rubbing itself against the sides or the bottom of the tank, or if it's being very lethargic, things like that, I'm usually going to go ahead and throw some General Cure in that tank. That'll kill any internal parasites or external parasites the fish may have, like anchorworm or gill flukes or things like that. this will take care of that. The other thing that I'm going to look for is I'm going to look for the fish to have little white spots on it. This is generally called white spot disease. My New Jersey came out. White spot disease, also known as ick. So I treat with ICX. I've never lost a fish when treating with ICX. I've had ick multiple times, and it treats it every single time. So basically what you're going to do with this is you're going to add, I believe it's 5 milliliters to 10 gallons. Yes, 5 milliliters to 10 gallons. And you're going to turn the heat on the tank up to about 86 degrees. Now, I've used it a lot with goldfish. I only turned it up to 80 degrees because goldfish are generally a temperate fish and prefer cooler temperatures around 74, 75. So you want to warm the tank up a little bit, treat with this, and what's going to happen is the spore of ick is going to fall off. That spore is going to rupture and reproduce, and during that reproducing stage, this is when the ICX or ick medications will kill that. It doesn't actually affect it when it's in the white spore stage on the side of the fish because that white protective barrier is there and it won't affect it. So the ICX will kill that during its reproduction cycle. Now the reason you turn the heat up is because the heat getting turned up speeds up the reproduction cycle of the ick and it kills it faster. So generally with ICX I'm going to dose that until the ick is gone, and then one additional day after I didn't see anything, and that will cure all of the ick in the tank. Now, generally aquarium salt will take care of most things, but when you get down to the nitty-gritty, these are the medications I use in my 5-gallon tank. Alright, so that was a real quick video on quarantine and why it's important. I know I didn't go into a lot of detail, but it was just a real quick video to try and help anybody that's new and just getting started out as to why you should have a quarantine tank, because we're all keeping very delicate ecosystems, and we don't want to kill all of our fish by bringing home one new fish, because it's never fun, and it's always a disaster. So if you like the video, leave a like, leave a comment down in the description. Have any questions, go ahead and ask them. I'll try and answer them to the best of my ability. And I'm going to be having a video coming up of a full tank reseal and top frame replacement, so stay tuned for that. But until then, I will see you guys in the next video.